Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be fitting this SAX helper spring equaliser onto this L200, which has a homemade camper that we've built. It drives okay, there's a little bit of body roll on the corners, and it will porpoise a little bit just down to road conditions and speed. So this is the kit that we bought to try to eliminate it. So let's have a look what's in the box. You get the fitting instructions, which look fairly straightforward to follow. Various nuts and bolts. You can see they put grease points, grease nipples on the pins, which I think is a nice touch. It shows a bit of thought's gone into it. So that's all the nuts and the bolts. Inside the box we have some protective covers for the springs, the shackle plates, the U-bolt lower plates, some bump stops, and of course the equaliser SAX spring themselves. That's it. So without more to do, we'll get the back of the car jacked up and so we can fit the springs. So this is the spring made up with the shackle pins. The back of the vehicle is jacked up and supported on blocks, and we're going to fit it in there up against the axle, and the plate will be around there. So let's get it fitted. Here we have the helper spring in position, U-bolts attached. Let's have a look from underneath. You can see how it fixes under the spring there and clamps on with the U-bolts there. I've done them up tight with a spanner. I'm just going to nip them up with a breaker bar now. These are left so loose so they can spin. We'll just nip these up and then do the other side. So there we are. There's the second helper spring fitted and tightened up. It didn't actually specify a torque to use for the bolts, but with a breaker bar I've just done them as tight as I think a U-bolt should be tightened up. That's on the other side. So I'll now grease the grease nipples and the existing grease nipples on the shackle pins and lower it down, and we'll see what difference it's made. If you are fitting on an L200, you might want to just take a little bit off the end of this plate like I had to make sure it did clear the shock absorber. It was just touching it, but I figured it's better if I just shorten it a little bit. And that's it. We'll let it down and measure it again. So that's it, all fitted and greased up, lowered down, covers on, U-bolts tightened to as best I can. Grease the shackles, obviously greased underneath on the universal joints while I was at it. So let's take a measure. If you remember right, when we started out we were at 1280. We are now at 1320, so we've raised it 40 millimeters. It wasn't a lift that I was after, but it's obviously taken a bit of weight off the suspension. So, proof of the pudding's in the eating, as they say. So the next step is we'll take it out for a drive this weekend and see how we get on. Well, thanks for watching. If you're thinking of buying a SAX helper kit, I hope this has helped you a bit to see what you can achieve at a reasonable cost instead of fitting full air suspension. But I'll take it out this weekend and we'll see how we get on. Thanks for watching, and bye for now. So this is the test drive in the L200 with the SAX helper spring on. We're heading into North Wales, so we're giving it a good test on some windy roads. Impressions so far, I would say it's 100% better than it was before. There's no porpoising on the road. Feels far more stable going into the corners. Gives you far more confidence in the truck. It hasn't affected the braking. I haven't had to adjust the brake compensation valve, and it feels, I'd say, more powerful because you're not bouncing around on the road so much. So it's a win. If you're thinking about it, I wouldn't hesitate spending relatively small amount of money to get your truck driving right. Thanks. Peace.